Hey, everybody, we're back. This is the beauty of this room. We never know who's going to show up. And the beautiful thing is that strangers who you didn't know 1 minute ago sit in front of you and are willing to have a conversation together. And they're willing to walk into a room that sometimes can be scary, but in the green room, CJ told me that I'm not scared of this at all. I'm ready. I'm an open book, and I'm really like looking forward to what goes on. And I love that spirit because in the world we live in, we have 8 billion voices. And those voices, and excuse me, and those voices drowned out so many voices. So the whole goal of this room is to let a voice speak, to have it be unobstructed, to let it say what it wants to say, to not argue it, to try and understand it. I might ask you, CJ, I don't understand that. Can you go a little bit deeper into it? What does that mean? How does that mean? And it really is all based on a book that I wrote called The Mosaic, who is the sponsor of this show. And what happened in that book is Mo lost his parents 2 years apart on the same day as a boy. And when he asked the adults where his parents were, they told him they're in a place called heaven. So he sets out in search of the place called heaven. And the people that he meets along the way are not the people that you would imagine. They're not the rabbis and the ministers and the priests and the shamans and the swamis and the gurus. They're common ordinary people. They're the trash man and the road worker and the homeless man and the blind woman. And he sits and he wonders, why am I sitting with these people? What are they going to tell me about heaven? But I'm here. I might as well listen to what they have to say. And in 100% of the cases, when he listens to their story, he realizes the person he initially saw isn't at all the person that they are. And when that happens over and over and over and over again, he starts to ask himself, do I see anything the way it is? Or do I see everything the way I am? And I wonder what I would see if I got myself out of the way and just allowed the world to be there as it is rather than as I perceive it to be. And at that moment, he looks over to his right and he sees a monk unzipping the sky and inviting him to walk into a parallel reality where he meets the wise one who's the keeper of the mosaic. So I've fulfilled my obligation to my sponsor, the Mosaic. But you can see how sort of that was what was going on. Initially, I was going to do this on the road. I had set up to leave May 1st on a journey around the world, to sit on street corners in bookstores, in corporate boardrooms, in hospitals, in prisons, and wherever people wanted to sit, and just listen to the people no one listens to. But then Mr. COVID came and said, not on my watch. We're not going anywhere. So now I do it from the luxury of my own living room. I sit here and I meet people from all around the world. This show I've talked to people in every continent now in the world, which is beautiful. And I'm just amazed at how beautiful people are. Sounding like I'm doing a monologue. I'm sorry for that. I want to say, CJ Lopez, welcome to the Conversations with a Stranger show. How are you? And tell us what's going on.
I'm doing good, and thank you so much for having me. I I had to sit in awe as you were giving the explanation of the mosaic because I agree with that 100%. It's in the ordinary that we find the extraordinary, and I love that message that you're putting out there into the world because the ordinary is extraordinary all on its own.
Yeah. It's so interesting, and I love that you feel that, because in the world that we live in today, so many people are talking about what their superpowers are. What's your superpower? Who are you? And I just think that we have another pandemic that's raging through our system, not just the coronavirus, not civil rights, not women's movements, but this I'm not enough, I'm not good enough movement. And when we hold up this idea that we have to be something more than we are all the time, it's completely unsustainable. And so we end up thinking we have to be this extraordinary human being, and we can't sustain that. And so we end up loathing ourselves instead of loving ourselves. And it's in the when one of the things the Mosaic said to me was that extraordinary things happen when extraordinaries come together. That we were never meant to do this alone. We've got it all wrong. We think we have to be extraordinary, but there's no way one person can be an extraordinary. You have to have lots of ordinaries coming together to create extraordinary situations. What's your thought on why people crave to be extraordinary rather than enjoy just the ordinary, the beautiful exquisiteness of ordinary?
Yeah, I think some of it is um, that basic need for attention. Some of those, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but those basic needs that you have to have met, it's their basic need for attention. And they get so caught up in that, they don't realize that just being their authentic self will get them the attention that is what is going to fulfill them the most. And I had I'm retired military. I served 20 years in the United States Air Force. I retired in 2017, and I still live by a lot of the chief's sayings that I spent time with. And I had a great chief of mine tell me, "You're only as smart as the people around you."
Yeah.
And I love that saying because what you were just saying is bring people with you. We don't have to go on these journeys on our own. We bring people with us. We don't have to stand 10 feet above somebody. We stand with the crowd. And that makes us, like you said, extra ordinary people, right?
Yes.
So I love that saying that he had is you're only smart as the people around you. So what I have, I'm going to share with everybody. And as long as we're all getting to that place in the end, like your book said, to heaven or wherever it may be that you may feel that you're going, then that's the goal.
I love that. And I love that you would bring a military example in because so often in the military we think of verticality in our relationships. We think that our leaders lead us, they tell us what to do. We are nothing and they are something and they have to guide us. One of the other things that the Mosaic in between the lines has says to me is it really feels like the modality of the way we lead has to change, that this vertical leadership model is falling apart because we can never maintain the verticality of being on that pedestal all the time. And there is a new model of a horizontal model, which if you look at the pieces of a mosaic, in any mosaic, none of them are bigger than the other, none of them teach each other. They just come together and they make something so beautiful that the eye can't help but look at it. And I wonder if there isn't something in the horizontal model of the mosaic where we are not having to teach or fix or change or help one another. We just have to come together and be with one another. And in that, that's why I created this room. It's not with the desire to change or help or fix or create. It's just in the idea of what happens when two strangers who don't even know each other walk into a room and hold the space for each other to be themselves. What would happen? Your
Yeah.
thoughts?
Yeah, I think that my thought is that the leadership, um, what's it called? The dynamic of the leadership depends on the situation. And the reason why I say that is it depends on what needs to happen. There is a moment in each situation where you can all get together with like-minded individuals and come up with a solution and come up with the ability to brainstorm and just be and hold a space. And then there's other situations where, as in the military and other places where things have to get done right away and there's no time for those conversations to happen. You have to follow doctrine and so on and so forth. So I think that there needs to be both forms
Mm-hmm.
of those leadership styles depending on the situation. I love the collaboration. I love that aspect of it. And I experienced a lot of that in the military. I also experienced some of the just get it done type of stuff. And I
Right.
knew the difference when I could ask the questions and learn from collaboration or when I needed to shut up and get work done. And because I was able to understand both of them and not get offended and not get upset and not have it break my ego, I think that I was still able to um, learn and bring those good lessons into my life once I retired and grow from them.
I love because I love the balance of what you're saying, that it's not a black and white world, that it's sometimes one or the other. Have you heard of the collective mind model or the swarm intelligence model that is being worked with now in certain areas?
I've heard talk about it, but I haven't heard what the concept is.
So as I was as I was doing this and thinking about this mosaic model, one of the people that I had on my podcast was a guy by the name of Dr. Louis Rosenberg. Dr. Louis Rosenberg went to school at Stanford. He created a lot of the virtual reality things that are present now and using. And then he decided to look at the way species who are less intelligent than humans make decisions. And he was very interested to see that how the way birds fly and the way fish swim and the way bees find where they're going to create their hive, that it seemed like they had a collective mindset, not a leadership mindset. Like when you see birds fly in the sky, it seems like they fly in a formation, but that formation, they move so much in sync with one another, they can't be following a leader. It's as if they're thinking with one collective mind how to create that idea. And so he said, I wonder if it would be possible to create a swarm intelligence model with a human model that doesn't think at all like that. And he created a virtual room, and in that room he put an octagon. And on the octagon he would put choices of what people would make. So, for instance, someone challenged him and said, if you're so good at this, let's see if you can pick the winners of the Kentucky Derby. And so he said, great, that would be great. And they said, okay, but as long as you're game for it, we don't want you to just pick the horse that comes in first. We want your people to pick first, second, third, and fourth. And he said, I don't know if we'll be able to do it, but let's try it. So he brought 40 horse enthusiasts into this virtual room. And their mouse was magnetized to a puck in the center of the room. And on the corners of the octagon were the horses that were running in the Kentucky Derby. And he said, I want you to first, before we get started, make a list on your own piece of paper who you think is going to come in first, second, third, and fourth. Tell me when you're done. And then now we're going to go into the room and we're going to choose together who's going to come in first. And you could see the puck was moving a little bit, but collectively they moved to a choice. They did it for second, they did it for third, they did it for fourth. A $20 bet on the choices that they made produced an $11,000 reward. And here's what's interesting. Not one of them picked the horse to come in first on their own card. Not one of them picked the horse to come in second on their own card. Only one of the 40 chose the horse to come in third, and none of them picked the horse that came in fourth. So what he showed there is, and he's shown it over and over, they've created now like a sort of a gambling site where people can come together and swarm and see what the swarm says about the best team to bet on or best Academy Award artist who's going to win. And they're finding that they're way beyond what experts in the field. And these are just common ordinary people who are coming together who have no expertise in that. And it sort of lends itself in my mind to this idea that there is a new model that is going to become developed, which is a blend of AI and human intelligence that's going to work together to find ways for us to think smarter, better, faster, bolder together. Anyway, I got spun out on this whole idea of what we agree on before we got. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so when I hear all of that, and I'm kind of like a Star Trek nerd, so it makes me think of the Borg, right?
Yeah.
And I'm rewatching all the Star Trek right now. When I lay down, I watch them, and I'm just into that. So I just got done watching the episode where it was all about the Borg, and they have the same collective mentality, and they are the most deadliest alien species on Star Trek, right? Because collectively they can take down anything. And that is basically the same concept. Because they have one mind, they think together and they think collectively. So I think in ways that to solve world problems that we need solved, it would be a great thing. But it squelches out individualism, and it could stop some people from having uh, individual thought patterns that allows them to go off somewhere and create something that would be the most amazing thing ever, because
Right.
they are in here and stuck in it. Like you said, it's fourth on their list and it never gets seen because collectively as a swarm it was never important enough.
Yeah.
So for problem solving of those big world problems, great concept if it can be controlled, but for individuals, not great for them.
Yeah. I'd be interested under different cover having that conversation with you, and you can check out, and I'll put in the show notes, the company that is called, they have a website, unanimous.ai, and you can see the work that they're doing, and it's interesting. But that wasn't really, that sounds like I have an agenda, which I come into these trying to be agendaless. So let's get back to the room, which this has all been fascinating and I love it. But tell me, like, the easiest question in the world to ask somebody is, how are you? And the most people answer, I'm doing great, I'm doing fine, I'm okay. You know, it's not as good as it was yesterday. Or, but given the opportunity to really tell us how are you really? We have a pandemic going on. We have a civil rights movement happening that's causing a lot of division. We have political party unrest, where people seem like they are really at each other's throats, both sides, not one or the other. We have a women's rights movement that seems like it's old hat now almost, but it isn't old hat because it was a few years ago. How are you doing in that world that you're living in?
So I will tell you that before all the pandemic, before all of this started, I personally have dealt with social anxiety for a lot of years of my life. So when the pandemic, I know this is going to sound weird, but when the pandemic started and I was forced inside my house and I was no longer forced to physically interact with people, I started thriving. And I
Wow.
know that for a lot of people, they're looking like, what is wrong with her? But in all honesty, it made me go into a comfort zone where I no longer felt that I had to adhere to the social norms of shaking hands and physically being in a space that I was not comfortable in. So I started thriving and I was able to do the things that made me comfortable in life. And I started this whole campaign for myself, not any businesses or anything like that, but for myself, where I'm living a fearless life. I'm trying things and doing things that I would have never done before. I'm a middle-aged white woman living in Texas, and I have a bachelor's degree, but I will tell you I graduated high school with a 1.7 GPA because I didn't care very much in high school.
Yeah.
I'm not overly intelligent. I am of average intelligence, but I'm doing things and learning things on my own that I would have never allowed myself to do out of fear or out of some type of social obligation. And it is the most freeing feeling ever. My children are of mixed race and they're up in college in Iowa, which makes me worry about their health and their safety being of mixed race in a rural community where they are an extreme minority, but they were raised in a military environment where racism wasn't an issue. So to them, they don't notice things that most other people would notice because they weren't raised around it. So if some of the things was brought to them, they would never even know that it was racism brought to them. So for me, I watch 15 minutes of the news every morning. After that, I don't pay attention to it because I know that my brain needs to function on a level of keeping me sane. And if I dwell too much on what people are trying to tell me versus what I'm actually able to know as a fact, then all I'm doing is being led by other people.
I love that. I want to dive into something, if you will. That fearless part of you that made the conversion from being whatever you were that didn't do those things before, that suddenly now is doing on your own, learning on your own, finding stuff out, exploring things that you never would have explored before. Can you dive into, and what I'm particularly interested in is because I'm sure there are people listening that are in that same place, that are in that place where they have been scared to take risks, scared to take chances, scared to do something they haven't done. Can you go into that moment and tell us what in that moment changed for you that allowed you to do that?
Yeah, so I lived most of my life in self-doubt and self-hate because of what other people had told me about myself. You're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not smart enough, you're too fat, you're too skinny, you're not, beautiful enough or whatever. And I believed that, or when I told people when I was 19 that I was joining the Air Force, they laughed at me. They said, "You're never going to make it." And then I I came in here when the pandemic started, and I started working from home and just going about my daily life every single day. And I just started looking around my house. One kid was off to college, the other was about to go, and I started looking around my house, and I was like, there was nobody in my ear anymore. My circle was changing because I was no longer allowing people in my circle that was going to doubt me or what I was feeling, because I know what I'm feeling inside me is true. And I know where my heart is at. And if they can't realize that, then I had to break free from those chains. I started looking around my house and I was like, is this really it? I have all these dreams, all these aspirations, the things I want to do in my life, and I'm not going to do them. I'm just going to be stuck in this house and just, for lack of better words, just die with all this fire left inside of me, and it's just going to end. And at some point, I said no. I said, I'm
Beautiful.
not going to. Who, excuse my language, who gives a damn if they're going to hate me, if they're going to talk about me, if they're going to look at me funny, if they're going to doubt me? Because if they are, they're not my people. They don't deserve to be in my circle.
So dive into that moment if you can, and I know that I'm asking you like questions that are like pinpoint, but I just want to know what changed for you that allowed you to go from a place where I care about what other people think to I don't really care what other people think. I care about what I think, and this is important for me to do, and I want to do it. I don't care if anybody likes it or not. What was the switch in that moment that happened?
I think it was a reflection of looking at my whole, looking at what I've done, looking at my age, and going, I'm not going to live forever. So what am I waiting for?
Yeah,
Just go.
yeah,
I think I got angry with myself. I think that was the switch. I think I said, "Oh, Pucky, I'm tired of living under this veil of crud that people are putting on me." I think it was the anger that built up inside of me. And I looked back, if I look back at my past, I mean, after I had my daughter, I hemorrhaged and I had to have a blood transfusion. I almost died. Um, I look at when I was diagnosed with skin cancer, and I was like, cancer? What? That was in 2019. In 2018, I was diagnosed with COPD stage 3. And I just started looking at all those things that tried to come at me. You
yeah,
know, like even when I was in Afghanistan, all the different things that happened, I said, all these things tried to come at me and they couldn't get me.
yeah,
I'm still here. I'm still
yeah.
here for a reason. And what am I doing with it? I'm doing absolutely nothing other than sitting here letting other people tell me what my worth is. And I got pissed off.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's when it switched for me.
So I want to bring the listeners in, and I want you to just hear what CJ's saying. And if you have to rewind this to go back, it's worth rewinding. Um, what in your life is going to get you to the place where you take action and start living what you know the life you know you want to live, rather than being scared and sitting on the sidelines and worrying what people are going to think or what incidents is going to happen to you or what will happen. Our days here are limited. There's no other reality than that reality. No, none of us are going to be here forever, and if we have no idea when our moment is going to come. And what about your life do you feel has to show up before you say goodnight to it? I remember being with Wayne Dyer one time, and we were walking through a cemetery, and he started to cry. And I said, "Why are you crying?" He said, "Because I can feel all the aspirations and dreams and hopes and wishes that these people that are here in these graves were never allowed to do and never could do, and now it's too late, they can't do them." And I thought, wow, what a beautiful sentiment. And I hear that's what CJ's saying too. So I want you to sort of take a look at as you listen to this, take a look at what's going on in your own life. CJ, what makes you happy?
Gosh, how can I put it into words, really? Living free. And when I say free, I mean waking up and knowing that whatever I choose to do that morning, I can do it.
Beautiful.
That's what makes me happy. I mean, I could say my children, absolutely, they make me happy. My husband, absolutely, 100%. My dogs, my home that is comfortable, my family, I could say that. But what truly makes me happy is when I wake up and I know whatever I want to do that morning, I can do because God granted me this day. He said, you have one more day. What are you going to do with it?
Yeah. Yeah, I bet he's saying you have today. I bet he's not saying you have one more day, but he might be saying. But
Yeah.
right, I think we have today. So I don't want you to live it.
Yeah.
I don't want you to go tomorrow. We got too much going on for it, right?
I need a few more, please. But yeah, I know what you mean.
All right, beautiful conversation. Let's go into what I call a lightning round. I want to warn you, I suck at lightning rounds, but
Me too.
the first few questions are easy, and then we can be curious. So we'll just go. All right, I think you already answered, but are you a dog or a cat person?
Oh, dog, 100%.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
Oh, coffee.
Coffee. I'm not talking about how you vote. I'm talking about how you live. Would you say you're more conservative in the way you live or more liberal in the way you live?
I believe I'm 50-50.
Wow, beautiful. Would you say you're shy or outgoing?
I am outgoing, um, but in person, I'm shy.
Wow. So what does that mean?
There's something about being physically near a person that I get social anxiety about. It's something about a dramatic experience in my past that I had, that I went through. So if here on the computer screen, I'm perfectly outgoing, I can talk to anybody, but physical closeness gives me, I guess you would say, the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah. And I wonder, for our listeners, I wonder how many of you can relate to that, because our life has really, in some ways, morphosized from a social environment where we are seeing each other, especially now with COVID, where we are seeing each other person to person, that our world has become, we talk into a box, we work into a box, we talk through a computer, we talk on a phone. And a lot of the world, when I grew up, the world was a different world. It was a handshake world. We would see each other, we would sit down with each other. Now the world's become a virtual world in some ways, that some of my best friends, I've never even met them in person
Mhm.
because I've met them over the screen. So it's interesting. How do you feel you fit in all that? Do you feel that you fit into the world, or have you always felt a little bit different?
I've always felt a little bit different.
It's so interesting to me because one of the things I'm doing in this show is I'm gathering data, and from the hundreds of conversations that I've had, and I was so surprised by that response because about 95% of the people, and it might just be the people that are drawn to talk to me, but so many 95% of the people say they feel different than the world that's around them. They don't feel like they fit in. They've always felt a little bit different. Why do you think people who feel a little bit different so try and make people fit into a box so that they're the same?
I think it's a comfort zone. I think it's more comfortable for people to fit, get everyone to fit into a box instead of have someone outside that box, because then they feel that they've got to bring that person into the box. They don't know what
Yeah.
to do with the people outside the box.
So would that be another way of saying they don't know what to do with themselves? Because they themselves don't fit into that box.
A lot of people, yes. And for many years, I didn't know what to do. And many years, I didn't feel like where did I belong? Like when I retired, I didn't know. Before me and my husband got married, I said, I don't know where I'm going to go. I don't have a place to go when I retire. I didn't belong back home where I came from or any of the places that I had visited. So I didn't feel that I belonged in one location. I'm like, where do I go? What do I do? All I've ever known was this, and I don't belong in the places that I came from. So yeah, I mean, you learn where you belong, and I belong in my own bubble, my own space.
As we're talking, the image just came to me of how brilliant Steve Jobs was with Apple, because his slogan was, "We are for the outcasts, we are for the crazy ones who think outside." And I didn't realize really. I mean, I related to me because I thought, well, yeah, that's who I am. But I didn't realize until I've just sitting here with you and asking you that and saying to you 95% of the people think they're different. What a beautiful marketing strategy that was to capture on the people that feel they are outcasts and different and not fitting in, to build that as his core group of people. Interesting. What are you most scared of?
Not being. That makes sense?
Not being?
Not being. I'm not afraid to die. I almost died one time. I was going there. It's the most peaceful feeling in the world.
Yeah.
Your energy starts to leave your body and you just relax. You're not worried about anything. So that's not a scary feeling. This what scares me the most is not being, because I don't know what that's like. I don't know
Yeah.
what it's like not to wake up in the morning. I don't know what it's like to not kiss my husband or talk to my kids or how their life is going to be without me. That's what
I don't know.
scares me the most.
So again, I suck at this lightning round because I should leave it there. But what interests me is that you're not scared of dying because you know how peaceful that is from the experience that you had. And yet you're scared of not being, which doesn't even seem like it's possible, because when you experience that moment where were at least, whether you were momentarily dead or not, you experienced the feeling of what it was to not be here. You still felt like you were being. Still felt your being,
Hmm.
and yet, is it not being seen by? Is it not being able to communicate? Is it not being able to hug your kids? Is it not being able to be with your husband? What is that not being? Because it sounds like from your very own thoughts, there is no place called not being, because even when you're not being in this body, you're still being.
Yeah,
Are you
so
following me?
yeah, I am. So I think what I'm trying to explain is the physical act of dying, whereas a lot of people are scared if it's going to hurt or what it's going to be like to die.
Okay.
And for me, it was probably the most peace I had ever felt in my life. So I'm not scared of that part. I'm scared of after that part because I
I
don't
got you.
know. because I didn't die. I did not go beyond
Right.
that part. I don't know. I'm not scared of going to heaven and the afterworld and having my energy go back to the source or any of that. I don't know how it will be, how this world will be without me. Not that I'm that
Right.
this wonderful source here, but I think every parent looks and goes, um, are their kids going to be okay without them?
Yeah. What a beautifully honest statement. And what a nice reflection, because I don't think that I'm a dad, and I think the same thing. Like, how will my daughter be when and if I'm not here anymore? Not if I'm not here anymore. Look, I even say when and if, like as if it's a possibility, right? I love that. What are you most excited by?
Gosh, um, the possibilities of the future and anything that, oh gosh, there's so many of them, right? There's so many possibilities. I'm excited just to wake up every day. In all
That's good.
honesty, like I wake up and I go from the moment I wake up. I get up, I have my coffee, my little dogs. I've got three inside, three outside. I've got six altogether.
Wow.
And I am just excited about life in general because, and I think it's because many years I wasn't. For many
Yeah.
years, life was just this thing that happened to me.
And so, would you say that the moment you said, I'm not going to care, I'm not going to live my life concerned about other people, was the moment also that you went from being not excited about life to being excited about life?
Absolutely. It was like, hell yeah, my eyes open today. This is cool. This is where it's at. This is what's happening. Yeah. And that excites me every single day because you don't know what's going to happen, but you have these endless possibilities in front of you and you can make any of them happen. And that's really cool to me.
So, let's go in that 1 second, because as we were talking, I get these little things that come into my head sometimes, and I try and push them aside. But then when I listen to them, there's something interesting that happens through them. So often in my life, I've always thought it was the voices outside of me that were discouraging me, or that I was trying to please, or that I didn't want to please anymore. But what I found when I sat with myself, those voices, when I quieted the outside voices, the voice inside me was saying the same thing. And it really had nothing to do with the voices outside of me. It had to do with the fact that I really believed that I couldn't do something, or I really believed that I wasn't good enough, or I really believed that I wasn't able to do what I wanted to do. And when I befriended that voice, and it wasn't a competition, it wasn't a fight, it was a befriending. And I said to them, something, I'm willing to listen to you, but I want you to hear what I want you to hear, because I'm not able to do that. I bring something into my life that has more power, because I feel a presence of a divine being inside of me that says, of course you can't do that. You were never meant to do that. But I can create anything through you, and I feel that come through me. And that I'm not good enough voice turns into the affirmation, of course you're not, because I'm here to do that. That's when you hand over the steering wheel to me, and you say, I'll take it. I can't drive this, and you say, I'm rested. I'll drive the car now. Let me do it for a little while. What's your thought on the internal voices? That you're talking a lot about those external voices.
Yeah.
Is there an
Yeah,
internal voice in you that you've been battling also?
absolutely. Yeah. And it was born out of what the external forces had told me or had built up in me. And and I
So
like what
excuse
you
me,
said.
excuse me
Go ahead.
1 minute. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. How do you know that it was born from the outside voices, and the outside voices just didn't exaggerate the voice that was in your head? How do you know that you weren't seeking those outside voices because that's what you actually believed?
That's a good question. You're getting really deep. So because I wasn't born doubting myself. I didn't doubt myself until others doubted me. And when I go and I'm like, I get so excited about something and others are like, "Oh, well, that's not, and give that doubt to me, that's when the inside voices start coming out. That's when they start doing that. So I don't believe that, um, I don't believe now, this is just my belief, could be wrong, could be indifferent. I do not believe that I was born to doubt myself. I do not believe that I was born to have limits on myself either. I believe that the world and society around me at some point has told me to fit in a bubble, fit in a box, do this, don't do that, give me these perceptions on life. And out of that was born the internal self-doubt. And you're right, at some point that external doubt stopped because I stopped allowing them in my circle. So I like what you said about how you befriended your internal doubt, because I haven't befriended my internal doubt. I'm a little bit sassier with my internal doubt because I am I guess compelled by, don't tell me I can't do something, because watch what I will do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's basically how I talk to my internal doubter that lives inside my head. I'm like, oh, really? Oh, you want to play this game today? Okay, this is what we're really going to do. And I like that you said you befriended it, because then you recognize it as a part of you versus something that doesn't belong there, whereas I'm treating it as something that doesn't belong there.
Yeah.
So I like the way that you have done that. I might need to try that one time and kind of see where it takes me, because I'm always up for learning new ways of,
Yeah.
kind of navigating the space inside of your brain and how you deal with everything in there, right?
Yeah. If I can share a story with you, I have the beauty of having a developmentally delayed daughter. And so she's not able to speak like you and I speak. The way she says her words, most people don't understand her. But because I've been with her so long, we understand each other most of the time. But sometimes we don't. And when we don't, she'll scream and she'll say it louder. And when I don't get it there, she'll throw a tantrum. And when I don't get it there, she'll attack me and she'll come and she'll try and bite me or rip my shirt or do something, because she just so wants me to understand what she's saying. One of the big thrusts in my life to start a revolution of listening in the world is my daughter, because what I found is, after 15 years of going through this and not being able to figure it out, and I think I'm a pretty smart guy, I just couldn't figure it out. Finally, she was coming at me in rage, and I said, Elisa, we can't do this anymore. You know how much I love you. You know how much I want to understand you. Please just try and tell me what you're saying without words. And she said, I am Daddy. And I said, what the hell do you mean you are Daddy? What are you talking about? And I said, how are you doing that? And she put her finger to the side of her head. And I understood from that she was telepathically putting thoughts into my mind, because she couldn't use her words to say them, but your mind could think it and she could send those thoughts to me. But I just didn't believe that she was even capable of thinking that well, because sometimes when people don't speak, we think they don't think. But she could think just fine. And I said, you little son of a gun, have you been putting thoughts in my head? And she said, and she started doing what you're doing. But imagine all of the stress, all of the pain of being misunderstood for all those years, and the freedom that came when all that weight came off her shoulders. So we just laughed hysterically, contagiously, for about 20 minutes.
That's awesome.
From that moment on, CJ, she's never yelled, she's never tantrumed, and she's never attacked. And if I were smart, I would have stayed there, but I'm not. I'm a little greedy. So I wondered, is that what I do to myself also? Is that what people that I work with do? When I go into corporate boardrooms, do people, when they don't get heard, yell at each other? And when they yell at each other and that doesn't work, do they create a scene and create havoc and chaos? And then they start to attack each other and blow up a building or shoot up Times Square or ruin a person's reputation or talk badly about somebody and try and destroy them? And I found, yes, it was. So part of the work that I want to do is in the world today is go into those same corporations, go into those prisons, go into those hospitals, go into those shelters, homeless shelters, and say to people really what I'm saying here. What is it that you really want to say that you haven't been heard? So that you don't, if I listen to you when you speak, you don't need to scream. You don't need to tantrum, and you don't need to attack.
Yeah. Excuse me.
And how can we find a way to do that? So it's the same thing with that voice in our head that says we're not good enough or you can't do this. If we would take a moment, in my point of view, take a moment and just listen to it and say, tell me more. Why do you think that's true? And just allow it to speak. There might be something that it really wants to help us see that we haven't been able to see, that we wouldn't have to stand in battle with it all the time.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see if you try it, how it goes. Please let me know, okay?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I love the concept because it does get tiring to battle it versus, and I've told people to let your thoughts flow through and follow them and see where they go. And I've told people that, but I've found it hard to do that myself.
Yeah, I believe me. I know I speak so many things that I wish I would do, and so I'm now over the last 10 years starting to say to myself, you're brilliant. Now try and apply what you're saying to others to yourself, because I think it could help you a lot, and it has. It's been beautiful. What do you hope most will change?
What do I hope most will change?
Yeah.
Gosh, in the world or myself?
Either.
I hope that I just want how to say it in so many words. I want kindness to come back, humanity, kindness
Yeah.
and humanity to be the norm. Like there's an old country song. It's not very old actually. It's from the '90s. And they talk about sitting on a porch drinking ice cold cherry Coke, and I think it's Rascal Flatts that sings it. And I sit and I just remember that song in my head where people used to sit on the front porch and drink Coke and watch the clouds go by, and they would say hi to their neighbors, and they'd say hi to the people walking down the street and have conversations. And you didn't hear the horns honking as soon as the light turned green. It's like, calm down, patience, being kind and open the door for people. And just that simple acts of kindness that really make the difference in someone's life. I want that to be the norm.
Yeah. I don't think you stand alone. I think there's a lot of us that look towards those days, and whether we go back to them or go forward into them, it's a world that we live in, a world with social media now, and we don't even know if the voices that are exasperating us are real people or bots that have been put up on our systems to make us think a certain way. Both of these are really important, but which one right now is more important for you? Do you want to have a place where you can stand up and speak and you can be heard? Or do you want to create a space for other people to speak and you listen to them?
I would love to create a space for other people to speak and be listened to, because I think that it's very important. There's so many people out there crying for help, crying to be heard, just to be able to speak their truth and get out what they need to get out from inside them. And they have so many amazing things that they can bring to the table. I would love to create that space for them, and that's actually what I'm working towards right now. That's one of my goals that me and my sister set out a year ago to start doing, and that's what we are doing right now.
Beautiful. Tell me how you're doing that.
We're doing it through we have a Facebook page and we have a website, and it's a sister show, and we create a space where people can come and find resources. We host a Saturday show where all we do is promote other people. They come and they say what they have to bring into the world that is going to help other people. We have 6 shows a week. We have a motivational show Monday morning. Tuesday, we have a chef fitness meal prepper who comes and shows people how to cook healthy with good food and keep healthy. We have an advice show on Thursday. We have bedtime stories for the kids on Wednesday. And we have a mindset coach on Sunday. And that's our whole goal, is to have a place where people can come in, have a good meal, a good conversation, and find resources. That is the only purpose that we have.
Tell me the name of that place. How, and you'll send me that, and you'll send me the link to that so I can put it in the show notes. But tell us how people can be a part of that.
Yeah, so people can reach out to us if they want to be on our show. That's our Saturday at 8 a.m. show, Mel and CJ Discuss. And we are promoting them and what they're bringing to the table, what light they're bringing into the world. And they can reach us from our website is www.the-sister-show.com, or through our Facebook page, or they can reach out to me individually. I am CJ Ives Lopez across all of my social media sites.
And CJ, you're going to send me, when we get off the phone, please send me all of those links. And I also need a headshot of you for the cover of the show we're doing now.
Yes, sir.
I love that. And I love that more and more. It's so interesting that the assumptions that I make was that I was holding this space for people to be able to say what they want to say in these conversations. And when I ask them, is it more important for you to say what your message is or to hold the space for other people to say their message? Again, a huge majority of people say, I just want to create the space for other people to be heard because I think people need to be heard. If you could say something right now to people that you would like them to hear, what would you say?
I would tell them to live life according to them, dance to the beat of their own drum, and don't be afraid, because life is this glorious place that we were meant to be free and live fearlessly.
Love it. CJ, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us. What a beautiful soul was one email away or one text message away on a Facebook, and how would we have ever known that if we didn't have the opportunity to do this like we're doing here? I want people to check the show notes, check out what CJ's doing on her podcast, on her Facebook page, on her website. There's so many ways that people are giving us to get involved with each other. And look what happened in the course of about 45 minutes. See, I didn't know CJ from Eve, I guess, or Adam, one of those two, when we first came in. And now I feel like I have a sister. I feel like I have a friend. And I feel so kind and close to her for the work she's doing, for the person she is, for the beautiful spirit that she has. It took 45 minutes. What would happen if we took 45 minutes and went up to someone we didn't know and just asked them to share who they are with us? The Doors had a great song years ago. It was called "People Are Strange When You're a Stranger." You know, we live in a strange world right now where most of us are strangers to each other. But in 45 minutes, and that's the duration, the total duration of what happened, but we were friends within the first few minutes. And you could feel it by watching the show. Why not take a few minutes to turn a stranger into a friend by just caring enough about them to ask them how they are and give them the space to tell you without trying to fix them, change them, help them, adapt them, but just listen to them. When we do that, a strange world becomes a friendly world. And we need a friendly world right now. The world's crying out for a friendly world, and we can do it one person at a time. So I want to thank you, CJ, for coming and being here with us and sharing who it is you are and what it is you do. I want to thank those of you who listen to the show regularly for giving of the most valuable asset of yourself, which is your time, and being here with us to share in this with us. And I want to invite each one of you to do what I just suggested. Go up to someone you don't know and ask them how they're doing and just listen. CJ, before we head out, is there one last thing you want to say?
I just want to say thank you so much for holding this space for me and for other people, and for the work that you're doing. It matters. And for the lesson that you taught me today to start embracing my inner self and those doubts and learn from them. I'm going to take that with me today. And thank you so much for this space today.
It is my absolute honor. Thank you for being with us. Please stay in touch with me and let me know how that goes. For
Okay.
those of you listening, thank you for being here. Until the next stranger comes into this room, I want to thank you for the work you're doing to make this world a friendlier place. And be friends with each other. Be kind to each other. And let's see what we can do to lift this world to a place that it's never seen before. Until that moment happens, we'll see you when the next stranger enters this room. Take care. Ciao.